Yo, how's it
Hey,
going?
it's going. I'm trapped in my house, probably like you are.
Yeah, like everyone else, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
how's it going for you though? Being trapped at home, some people find it productive, some people find it boring as hell. So how's it for you?
it's not too much of a big difference from my normal life. I spend a lot of time inside, and I'm always recording or playing video games, and I get out a lot when the weather's nice, but during the winter, it's just and the spring, a lot of the spring, there's a lot of time spent indoors, but I feel like I'm one of the lucky few that can do that. A lot of people can't do that, and it's got to be really hard for them. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, I mean, it still kind of sucks because you don't have the freedom, but it's the right thing to do to stay inside. So,
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's good that you're looking at it that way because, it is actually very difficult for everyone, and it does help in a sense that it's not, like you said, it's not too different from, your usual lifestyle. But, obviously not having the option of going out kind of sucks. But it is.
yeah, it's one of those things where like you have to like if you do have to go out, it has to be for something essential like food or I still try to walk my dog, but I wear gloves and a mask, and I have like like a really long hoodie that I wear, so I try my best, but yeah, it's a very weird time in the world for all of us, for our generation and beyond. So,
Yeah.
anyways, how are you doing? How are you handling it?
I'm good actually. Thanks for asking. I've been kind of productive musically because obviously, my full-time job's been put on hold for now, like many other people, because yeah, there's just because everyone else is shut, so there's nothing much that we can really do right now. Thankfully, we're still being paid to like not do much, so so that kind of helps. It's like I'm being paid to do music, which is kind of cool.
That's
So
the dream, man.
I know, right? So yeah, it's been kind of awesome. But yeah, it's like I said, it's like a strange feeling not knowing when this will end or what's next. So just taking it a day at a time and like
Well,
meeting
they
awesome.
can, so they can
Yeah,
do.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all you can do. Yeah, so anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. And another thing I wanted to thank you personally is that you actually threw a pick at me in London.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then what made yeah, and it was so cool because it was a really nice gesture because it was in London, your London show, which was your last show in the tour. And
That was one of my
then
favorite shows we've ever played, by the way.
oh, it was crazy. My back hurts so much. I was front row, but like the mosh pit was like, oh, I had to stick my bum out to kind of keep my place, you know. It was crazy,
Uh,
crazy, crazy. And yeah, like it was so cool because you threw the pick and then you kind of like looked at me to make sure, I'm sure you don't remember, but then like you kind of looked at me to make sure that I actually got your pick before you moved on, which was like, ah, that was
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I try to pick people out, and the thing that really kind of makes me sad is like when I like pick someone out, and then I try to throw them a pick, and then somebody like dives in front of it to try to like, catch it from them, and it's like, oh man, like that's so rude. But I'm glad you got it, and yeah, I hope to see you at the next London gig. I hope you
Yeah.
don't mind. I'm having an adult beverage right now.
Oh no, go ahead, help yourself. Whatever helps you answer the questions now.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
helps me do a lot of things, believe it or not, except for drive.
I'm pretty sure that's the case for most people as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. So anyway, shall we dive? Like promised you to keep this timely. So shall we dive into the questions
Yeah,
then?
man. Yeah, I mean, I just, I can go over the amount of time that I said or not. Like, it's just, I wanted to kind of keep it around there. I'm not like, if we get to that point and we're still talking and having a good conversation, I'm not
Yeah.
going to just dip out. So just
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
All right, cool, cool. Nice, great to hear that. Okay, well, as you all know, the first question I was gonna ask you was about, your writing for, 4 seconds ago, and also obviously Periphery. So obviously, your guitar works are admirable, and obviously an inspiration to many other guitarists like myself as well. And so the question I wanted to ask was that, obviously when you write songs, do you sit down and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to write for 4 seconds ago now, or I'm going to write for a Periphery, or do you just sit down, start writing and see what happens, and then you decide where it goes or which project it should be with? How does it work for you?
That's a good question, because I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that, because I think about that a lot. Like when I sit down with a guitar or an instrument or something, I never truly know what it's going to produce. And even though I've tried so many times to say, like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write a Periphery song, and it never really works out that way. Like sometimes it does, but the other day I was playing something on the guitar, and I was like, oh, this could be for Periphery. And then I started recording it, and it became more like electronic in nature. So then I decided, oh, okay, this will be for the solo project. So even though I set out to do one thing, it never really turns out the way that I wanted, or like I guess I don't visualize music in a high enough resolution in my head to where I can like kind of see the full picture. I have to experiment with it, with the ideas that I come up with, to kind of see where they fit and where my head's at. Because I feel like I've made a career out of using my ear, but like any sort of like academic approach where I like have a plan, or I really know how something's going to turn out just by hearing it in my head, that's never really worked out for me. So I think that I think that I'm still figuring out the answer to that question. And lately I've been writing a lot of electronic music, so that's kind of where my head's been at. But I think everyone, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, is like really itching to get back to the band and like the metal world. And like, yeah. I know that Mark and Misha have been working on stuff. I have a couple of riffs that I've been sitting on for a while. So, who knows what'll come out of that, but really it's situational. To answer that question, it's totally situational, and it can be totally dependent on where I'm at in my head, which is, completely random. So, I don't really have much control over it.
Okay, so you just let it flow, and then whatever happens, happens. Am I right?
Yeah. I think, and I think nurturing that, if you have that ability, or if like you're able to get your mind to a place where that's a possibility, I think you'll, at least for me, I find it rewarding because I surprise myself, and like I come up with things. I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could write something like that, or I didn't know that was like, that's how that would turn out, like it's really, it's almost like you have full control over your mind, but you don't know what it's going to think.
That's true, or what's going to come out of it. So then, do in most cases, do the final product sound fairly different from the initial idea, or do you generally have like still more or less the same idea by the end of the day, or does it transform into something completely different?
Yeah, it usually evolves into something completely different, especially when especially if I write something and then I get together with Mark and Misha, and then they hear it like in ways that I couldn't even predict. Mm-hmm. So then, my idea kind of like takes shape. It's more of like an amorphous idea, and then it starts to really take shape when I get in the room with the other guys, if I'm working with them. Mm-hmm. Me and Misha particularly have a great writing chemistry. We've been writing music together since like 2006. Mm-hmm. So we've had many years to refine it. And I owe a lot to those guys, to how the music takes shape and how it finds its place in Periphery, because I can write riffs, I can write ideas, I can write sections that go together, mm-hmm. but shaping them into a full idea, into a song, really requires both Mark and Misha for all of us to kind of come together and figure it out.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's why, I guess it's good to have that kind of synergy, between you guys, because obviously everyone's got their own strength and weaknesses, and then you kind of complement each other in that way. Like, I mean,
Yeah, we're really lucky. We're really lucky because, like, I know a lot of bands, and a lot of these bands have one principal songwriter, and that's it. And if they're lucky, they have two or three. But everybody in the band in Periphery is capable of writing and producing and arranging music, and it never really feels like there's like too many opinions because we all give each other space. So it's really nice to work in that environment because sometimes maybe during Periphery 3, I went into it being like, oh man, I don't really have any ideas, like what's going to come out of this.
Mhm.
And then, the moment I get together with those guys, then, the ideas just start coming. So I've learned to kind of trust in the fact that when I'm with those guys, we just come up with stuff. It's pretty magical, and I like it.
Oh, awesome then. So then are you guys like, so obviously I think in the last record you guys actually spent a lot of time together, like actually writing the whole album. So do you guys now, I mean, now that you've mentioned them, are you guys actually using this, I mean, the current situation to kind of plan for the next album, or are you guys just sitting on the initial plans you guys have made prior to this situation?
We're always planning like what we're going to do next. So we always throw out ideas. I think like we know we're really in it when we say like, all right, we're going to get together for pre-production, and then we set aside a couple of weeks to get together and start writing and demoing and stuff. But even before that, we're sending around ideas or pitching certain approaches for records or what we can do next. So it's kind of always in flux, and it's always happening. And really, like once the next record starts, it's when we get to that pre-production phase where we're like, okay, let's all book plane tickets and meet up at Misha's house, and we'll start. And that hasn't happened yet for because of everything that's going on. But once we get the okay, or like the world settles down a little bit, then we'll probably start up and start working on a new record.
Oh, nice. Well, looking forward to hear the new record. Actually, I'm to my surprise. I mean, like after so long, I'm still looping P4, and it's crazy. And like what I like about that album is that after looping it so many times, I still find bits that I didn't know was there before, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Those little details, and
that's really great to hear, because that's exactly why we like progressive music, because with the bands that we listen to, the bands that we like that are kind of in that progressive rock, progressive metal vein, they have that aspect to them. Now, we don't do it deliberately. It's just kind of like the nature of how we write together. There's going to be a lot of layering and a lot of attention to details. But when we're listening to other bands that we like that kind of have that element, that makes us feel really good. So I'm really glad to hear that you're able to pick out all these like buried elements, or these elements that aren't quite apparent to you on one listen and become apparent on the next. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's like I can tell how complex the songs are, because like this is really funny, because like I always wanted to like really write like you guys, but then like FYI I kind of like gave up already because like I actually gave like one of your songs, like I think it was Mark who was writing most of it, which is Reptile. So then I thought the idea was to learn that song. Maybe I can write like you guys. So I spent months learning that song, finished tracking the whole thing. And then I tried to do something from scratch. I think less than a week later, I just gave up. I was like,
well, I don't think it's a completely wasted endeavor. Like when you teach yourself other people's songs, you may or may not be teaching yourself techniques or feels or even melodic motifs that may not be, apparent in your mind at the time. So it's basically like working out, like just because you worked out the one time doesn't mean you're going to get like ripped, right?
Yeah.
But you keep doing it, and then eventually you kind of your workout vocabulary gets expanded. You keep recording, your musical vocabulary gets expanded, and I feel like that's how it works. So I think that it's really good that you did that, and I don't think you should stop doing that. I think if this is a style of music that you enjoy, then you should keep trying to learn the songs, and experiment with other bands and keep trying to record that stuff, because eventually it'll come to you. Because that's exactly how I do Periphery stuff, and how I do like my electronic stuff is I listen to bands that I like, and I close my eyes and I like think about like, oh, how did they make that sound, or I wonder what plugin they use there, and then I go, and when I sit down to do my own stuff, I try to like put my mind back in that place, and it never comes out exactly how how the other person sounds, because it just, a lot of times music doesn't work that way. Yeah. But it definitely helps me push me out of my comfort zone, or illuminate things about music and music writing that I wouldn't have known before. So I don't think it's a wasted endeavor that you did that, and I think you should do it more.
Oh, I'll try. It wasn't an easy thing to do, like learning the songs you guys play.
That's a hard song too. You didn't pick an easy song. Like, that's a very, very hard song.
I know it is. But yeah, like that. So that was the whole idea, to like, I wanted to try to write like you guys, so that's why I picked that song. But it is a good point that you brought up, saying like, it may not, whatever I've learned right now may not be applicable now exactly. It may come like, say, maybe months down the road when I'm doing something else, I'm like, oh, actually that was what I learned before, and exactly. Then you start to draw lines between the dots, And thanks for like shedding some light on that thing I've been struggling with.
Just look at it as like working out, but you're just doing it in the music. It's practice. It's just practice.
It is. Well, thanks for those words. I will like remember them every time I struggle.
Good, right. Good. Well, and let me just say, I'm struggling right now. Like right now, I'm working on 2 songs at the same time right now, and I'm struggling on both of them. And I sit down every day and I at least give it an hour. And it's been probably like maybe like a week and a half, and I have not come up with anything for like the next section in either of these songs. So it happens to people who've been doing this for a long time, happens to people who are just starting out, happens to everybody. So you have to keep that in mind, because it's very easy to get discouraged, because I get discouraged. Like I'm very discouraged about these 2 songs, but I know that eventually, as long as I keep plugging away at it, I'll eventually find the next section.
Oh, that's a very good tip, and thank you for that, and I'll keep that in mind. We wanted to, obviously not, I mean, we couldn't not talk about Periphery and the music you write, but obviously we wanted to go straight to the points that we really wanted to talk about. So forgive me if we're like jumping from topic to topic too quickly.
You're the maestro. Yeah. You tell us where we go.
All right, thank you. So yeah, it was great talking about how you personally write, and I think a lot of people will find that advice where you said it doesn't just happen to amateurs, it happens to professionals like yourself, where you spend countless hours on the same song and you still struggle with coming up with something. And I think to make it something positive, I think that would be very encouraging to a lot of people who are actually trying to write songs, because at some point, like I think a lot of people will feel that it's their problem, and it's not a problem that everyone else's face as well. So I think many guitarists or many songwriters will be happy to hear what you just said.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and trust me, I know where that pressure comes from, and when me and the guys get together, that pressure isn't there because we have that chemistry where we're able to kind of just like arrange a song in a day and write and arrange a song in a day, and it's like good. That's really rare and really lucky. Like most people don't have that. And I even know people who just by themselves, like, there's a lot of guys on YouTube or guys in bands that I know. I mean, Misha's one of these guys who can just sit down and write a song from start to finish, and the battle isn't to get the sections pieced together, but it's like, does he like the arrangement as a whole? So everybody has some sort of like battle going on with their ability to produce music, and the pressure, I think, to do that comes from people who are only seeing the people who are capable of really coming up with something like a full idea on the spot, because there's a lot of talented guys out there who are very forward facing on social media, so you can kind of see like, oh wow, that guy wrote an entire song by himself, why can't I do that, you know? And it's like, well, most people can't do that. That guy's just like, that's all that guy does, you know? So that it's, you got to keep that in mind when you're composing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we do get like phenomenal guitarists who, I think it has a lot to do with the way they write or what they have in mind. Like, you know, guitarists like, you know, John Brown, he has like a very specific way of, you know, kind of recycling a riff, like, you know, using one riff and, you know, just playing it in reverse, playing it in different octaves, and then that, and I think every musician has their own way of doing it. You just, I think, have to find your own way of doing it.
Exactly. It's just the hours put in, and like, you know, some people are going to take, you know, 10,000 hours, and some other people are going to take 15,000 hours. You know, so it's just that's how it works.
Yeah. It is that's the truth, and we have to live with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. So the next question I actually had for you is more gear related, and it's something that I